Get ready for a thrilling journey at Recap Movie Club. Join us now as we unravel the secrets and hidden details of today's featured movie. The boy is rescued on the wreck of a ship, which nearby is already burning and going down. A giant monster swam right under him, a monster that sank the sea vessel. The story takes us to an orphanage. Little Macy Brumble reads to the other children about monsters that ravaged the shores and sank ships. But there came brave hunters who slew almost all the monsters, and greatest among them was the famous Captain Crow. A nurse came in and sat both children down on their beds, and she asked for Macy to give up trying to escape. But as soon as the woman came out, the girl, supported by other orphans, snuck out of the orphanage and ran to the seashore. Jacob Crow is on a ship called the Inevitable, preparing to face the legendary monster, the Red Bluster. 30 years ago it took away the eye of his adopted father, that great hunter, Captain Crow. The captain's assistant, Sarah Sharp, had managed to lose a leg during the hunt. Bluster's tail showed in the distance, but Leah, the eyes of the ship, reported an attack on the other hunters. And according to the code, they are first and foremost obliged to help their colleagues. So the captain ordered a new course, even though he'd been waiting for a rematch with Bluster for 30 years. The Brickleback, swinging its tentacles, destroyed the second ship, but Captain Crow's crew diverted it. The harpooners took up battle positions, awaiting the command to attack, but first volleys from cannons were fired at the monster. The cannonballs partially penetrated Brickleback's tough armor, and arrows flew from the affected places. The monster hid under the ship, and when it surfaced it nearly flipped it over. The monster clawed at the ship with its jaws and began to capture the sailors with its tentacle. Jacob, if possible, freed them. The hero grabbed a harpoon and launched it at Brickleback's head wound, but he was immediately hit with a tentacle and flew 100 meters away from the ship. The monster almost swallowed the hunter, but the hunter, floundering in the water, managed to ride Brickleback. Captain Crow grabbed a harpoon and in a leap plunged it straight into the heart of the giant creature. The beast went down, and Crow began sawing off its horn to give to the king. Suddenly Brickleback came to life and pulled the hunter into the abyss. However, the captain woke up on the deck. He was rescued, but the hunt for Bluster could not continue. The ship would not survive another fight, so the command was given to return to the port of White Rock. Half of the crew is crippled. Jacob is also having his wounds stitched up. The hunters are worried that they won't be able to handle the Red Bluster. But then at least you'll die honorably as hunters, Jacob inspires them. Man, called to his quarters by the captain, Crow says that as soon as they fix the ship, they will unleash their full power on Red Bluster. But this will be his last time out to sea as captain. He will turn the ship over to Jacob. The old man remembers saving a boy who was holding on to the wreckage of the ship even then. Jake vowed to rid mankind of those damn things. The Inevitable entered the harbor, the townsfolk cheerfully greeting their heroes. Among them is little Macy Brumble, a girl who met Jacob while he was celebrating in a tavern. Her parents were also hunters, but died during a battle with monsters. Macy intended to join their team. Jacob immediately turned her down. Well, in that case, she would talk to Captain Crow himself to prevent it. The man put the girl in the carriage and ordered her to be taken back to the orphanage. The next day, Captain Crow, Jacob, and Sarah Sharp arrived at the king's palace. They handed Brickleback's horn to the ruler, but were immediately reprimanded for missing Red Bluster. This was reported to the dastardly Admiral Harnagold. The monarch notifies them that he will no longer pay for the hunters' services. An incredibly powerful imperial ship has been built with which they will destroy all the remaining sea monsters. Crow criticized the ship's inept design. Most importantly, his captain is a complete idiot who has never faced a monster in his life. Jacob begs for another shot at killing Bluster. Let the royal family see who gets to do it first, them or Harnagold. The Inevitable is back at sea. The crew is planning an attack on the Red Demon, but they will have to sail farther than usual to do so, someplace no ship has ever been before. Turns out there was a Macy hiding in one of the barrels. Jacob was going to drop her off at the nearest port, but the captain liked the fighting girl and decided to keep her. Macy was put in with Sarah Sharp, whose quarters looked more like a weapons storehouse. The woman gave the little neighbor a knife. Girl wants to kill Red Bluster as much as the captain. Suddenly there was a loud roar. The ship shook, and one of the bombs hit the water and exploded next to it. The monster moved toward the ship. The cannons were loaded with incendiary shells. The Bluster was fired on as soon as it emerged from the sea. Dozens of harpoons pierced its thick hide. The monster would have to pull the ship behind it until it tired. However, the Bluster has begun to float in circles, creating a huge whirlpool. Jacob insists that they cut the ends off or the ship will go down. But the captain opposed, despite Macy's prohibition, began cutting the rope, and Jacob did not interfere. The crew was saved, but the rescuers themselves fell into the water and found themselves face to face with the monster. But it simply swam away. The captain drew his gun and demanded that the girl who had disobeyed orders be brought to him. But suddenly they were swallowed up by the monster in front of everyone's eyes. They were still in its mouth. After walking forward a little, they found themselves in the Bluster's nostril. In the morning, the monster swam up to the tropical island. Jacob accidentally tickled the bluster's nose with his spear and it sneezed and blew the hunter's nose. He soon got rid of the second splinter. The monster looks at the girl with interest and shows no aggression at all. Therefore, Macy stopped Jacob from stabbing it in the eye. But the man does not calm down. Then Bluster simply waved his flipper, and a huge wave swept away the hunter. And then he went about his business. There were terrible sounds coming from the forest. People have taken refuge in a huge shell. The girl asks, is it true that monsters used to come ashore and danger was everywhere? Even though that was a long time ago. But the hunter is sure that's how it was. Macy, on the other hand, thinks the monsters aren't so bad. Perhaps they should just be left alone. Seems Bluster wanted to protect them from the captain who pulled a gun on them. Crow himself is angry that the monster ate his successor. There's no way to get revenge. The ship floods, they must return to White Rock. But Crow demands that they swim to the island and buy supplies from the Sea Witch. And he doesn't care that it's against the hunter's code. Waking up in the morning, Macy discovered beside her a blue monster, which immediately ran away, running out into the clearing. The girl fed the baby and took it in her arms. By accident, she stepped on a shell and froze in place. Jacob tries to get her out and discourages her from keeping the blue one. The hunter grabs the monster by the head and tosses it into the thicket. They don't know anything about this creature or the dangers it poses. Jacob lost his balance and damaged several more eggs. The yellow monsters hatched and screamed at the top of their lungs. The Yolks thought the humans were their parents and hugged the couple. However, the real mom soon jumped out of the jungle. Jacob figured the monster was going to trample them, but the mom just wanted to get the last cub that clung to the hunter's back. The man exhaled, they were safe now. But suddenly they were attacked by a huge purple monster that looked like a giant crab. It was about to swallow the man, but Bluster appeared and attacked the crab. Macy ended up on the monster's back, and Samana grabbed Bluster by the horn. The girl helped the red one by grabbing the crab by the eye. Jacob entered the fight as well, wounding the monster with his harpoon. Bluster grabbed his opponent by the claw and threw him back into the sea. Blue helped Macy to get to the boat, which, however, was nowhere to go. The girl decided to negotiate with Bluster and, with the help of Blue and different fruits, asked the monster to drive them home. The giant creature did not refuse, putting people on his head. Bluster swam off in an unknown direction. Jacob tries to explain to the monster where it needs to turn, but Macy is much better at showing Bluster the direction it needs to go. There are dozens of harpoons sticking out of the creature's skin. Macy starts pulling them out. Meanwhile, Captain Crow has docked at the island where the witch lives. The old woman sold him a poison that would kill the greatest monster and a weapon that could pierce even the toughest skin. It's called the Hand of God. A hungry Jacob tries to harpoon a fish, but he fails. Then Bluster made the fish jump out of the water by itself. And at last the men and Bluster could eat. Jacob decided to help the girl get the harpoons out of the monster. He began to realize that the books were lying about the monsters. They might not be the ones who started this war. During the storm, the couple hid in the nostrils again. Dozens of sunken ships and skeletons of monsters lie on the seafloor. A crew of hunters realizes that after the deal with the witch, they're all cursed. A flock of blue spines swim past the ship. They were probably spooked by the Bluster. And Captain Crow changed course. Arriving at work, Roll lashed out at Lucas, suspecting that he was the one who had set him up. Then Shale announced that some philanthropist had given the school a generous gift: sports equipment, computers, books, musical instruments, and even free pizza. All in all, Shale has found a place to invest the principal's money. Sherman likes what's going on and offers to help Shale fight the school gang. The mercenary tells the teacher about the principal's connection to organized crime, but Sherman refuses to believe that a black brother can't do such a thing. It's all politics, white people sticking it to black people again. Roll also realized what his money was spent on. The creature saw the wounded girl. At that moment, Captain Crow's ship appeared on the horizon, and the monster lunged toward it. Crow fired a huge harpoon at it, which struck the howler on the first hit. The poison began to spread through the giant's body, but the harpoon was pulled out so that the monster would not lose its breath, and it was finished before the eyes of the king and queen. As the monster was tied with ropes, Jacob and the girl came to the ship. Crow found it hard to believe that his pupil could befriend a monster. When the girl came to her senses, she tried to stab the captain with a knife. It took her the last of her strength. Macy asks Jacob to help their friend. However, he decided to go back to the hunters. Macy asks Asara Sharp to help, but the woman is not going to betray her crew. The ship with the captured monster entered the harbor. It turns out that Blue had been following them all along. The monster chewed off a piece of the ship and freed Macy. The girl saw the royal coat of arms and realized that all monster books were printed by order of monarchs. The inevitable stopped right outside the king's palace. The hunters won the contest and proved that only they could handle the monsters. Meanwhile, Macy tries to cut the ropes that hold the bound Bluster. Crow is about to finish off his prey, but is stopped by Jacob. The captain is frustrated with his pupil and pounces on him with the ball. During the fight, he threw Jacob off the water, and Sharp found the girl and helped her free the monster. The poison Bluster tried to rise, but collapsed on the ship in one of the palace towers. The monster came to its senses little by little. The soldiers rolled out their cannons. Bluster saw his enemy and was about to finish him off, but Macy got in his way. She convinces her friend that if he does, the feud will never end. Jacob took a spear and broke his leg. Next, Macy addressed the people of the kingdom. She said that the monarchies had been feeding them years of false propaganda, making the sea creatures into creepy killer monsters and making people hate them. Kings have used hunters to expand their empire and enrich themselves. Therefore, it was time to end the long-standing feud. Bluster turned around to sail away, and the general refused to follow the king's orders and opened fire. The monarch had no choice but to flee. Since then, the hunter's ship stopped entering the Sea of Monsters, and Macy found a new family.